Former TNA X Division champion Speedball Mike Bailey's contract expires with TNA Wrestling, and he's expected to become All Elite in the very near future. All the details on that. Plus, we've got the ratings for Wednesday's edition of AEW Dynamite on TBS. Kenny Omega explains why he's likely to return to the ring in New Japan Pro Wrestling as opposed to All Elite Wrestling. AEW announces an interesting location for an upcoming Collision television taping. Plus, more details on Swerve Strickland's botch when it came to the city that Dynamite was in this week. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's begin with an interesting update on former TNA Wrestling X Division champion Speedball Mike Bailey, who reportedly is going to be becoming All Elite. Now, this was a developing story yesterday. Initially, Fightful Select reported that Speedball Mike Bailey was done with TNA Wrestling for now. Now, the word within TNA, according to Fightful Select, was that Speedball's deal expired on November 1st. He'd signed with TNA back in 2021 and his profile was removed from TNA's website this week. Now, he's still on some flyers for TNA, but he wasn't at the last set of television tapings and filed for trademarks on his name this month. He finished up at the Detroit television tapings. Now, Bailey is expected and was expected to get interest from a number of outside companies. He was backstage at AEW this summer and at one point years ago had actually agreed to a deal with WWE. Now, Fightful Select had reported that Bailey's deal would be up towards the end of the year, which he confirmed in a recent interview. As I mentioned, he was featured and still is featured on some TNA flyers, but Fightful had not heard of any plans on him to be on any future shows. Multiple people said that he was saying his goodbyes to people backstage and personnel in TNA in Detroit and gave a heartfelt thank you to the locker room. He will be in Winston-Salem at WrestleCade, where TNA has their next pay-per-view. Now, Bailey is well liked among most people in wrestling and certainly has people pushing for him in both AEW and WWE, but it looks like the former X Division champion is set to land in All Elite Wrestling, because in an update after they originally posted this story, Fightful Select learned very quickly that Speedball Mike Bailey is expected to be All Elite Wrestling bound. A number of talent within TNA, as well as sources close to Bailey, claim that he's headed to All Elite Wrestling. Other sources indicated, and TNA sources later confirmed, that they wouldn't have needed to write Bailey off TNA television if he were headed to NXT or WWE. However, they have written him off TV, and it looks like he's headed to AEW. Speaking of AEW, we got the ratings and viewership figures for Dynamite this Wednesday on TBS. Wednesday night's episode of AEW Dynamite averaged 666,000 viewers on TBS, which is up over 27% from last week. Of course, that show went head-to-head against WWE NXT, where the show lost not only in terms of total viewership, but also the key demographic in their regular time slot. But this is a bounce back for AEW to some degree, as it's the largest audience total for Dynamite since October 2nd. Dynamite finished 5th on primetime cable charts with a 0.22 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic. That's up over 37% from last week and is the best rating the show has done in that category since its September 25th episode. The only major sports competition was an NBA game on ESPN that averaged 1.08 million viewers and drew a 0.34 rating in the 18 to 49 demo to top the cable charts. In terms of the quarter-hour ratings, these come courtesy of WrestleNomics, so shout out to them and be sure to subscribe to their Patreon service. As you can see, as is usual, they had a strong lead in from The Big Bang Theory, with that representing the highest quarter-hour of the show, the first one in the total viewership. There was a dip into the second, but a bit of a rebound in the middle of the show, back to over 700,000 viewers. But what's the comparison to this time last year? Well, as compared to the same week in 2023, Dynamite's overall viewership was down close to 20%, that being just over 19%, while its 18 to 49 rating was down over 21%. So certainly still down year over year for All Elite Wrestling. Now, an interesting one here when it comes to Kenny Omega, his return to action. Of course, we haven't seen the best bout machine compete inside of a professional wrestling ring in close to a year after Omega was sidelined with diverticulitis. It nearly cost him his life late last year, and we haven't seen Omega, as I mentioned, in the ring since. Now, recently, we've seen Omega surface back in New Japan Pro Wrestling with an expectation we could see Omega either in the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdom or Wrestle Dynasty in early January of next year. But it's led to many people questioning just why is Omega returning to the ring, if indeed he does return to the ring, in New Japan as opposed to All Elite Wrestling? Well, the AEW EVP gave an interesting answer to Sean Ross Sapp in a recent interview. Here's what he had to say.
A lot of people, not only in Japan, but internationally, they never knew who I was until I did big things in New Japan. So I really do owe New Japan a gigantic thank you. And I do feel that there's a debt I have to repay in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And I think that if by performing at the Tokyo Dome, by making my comeback at the Tokyo Dome, is a way to help repay that, if it can help something for their business, then I'm more than happy to do that. And, I'm sure naturally the next question is, well, why not AEW first? That is the company that I helped create. That is the company that I'm contracted to. It makes sense. It's tough to answer because, why not AEW? There's nothing wrong with AEW at all. If you watch any of the episodes of our TV recently, there's just, everything is flowing like clockwork right now. I feel like there's a spot for all of the hardworking men and women that are on those shows. They've all worked incredibly hard to earn their spots and keep their spots. And I feel like if I just kind of showed up and said, hey guys, I'm back, so one of you are going to have to, I don't want to be that guy. So I feel like when there's an opportunity again, when there's a chance, sure, I'd love to be back if you guys can have me. But right now I feel like AEW has got a good thing going. I don't think they need me. I think they need me. So I will, I'll make my return for New Japan instead, for now.
So that's Kenny Omega's rationale. What are your thoughts about that? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, let's talk about AEW Collision here. This is really interesting. Got a lot of people talking about a cancellation and actually a rebooking for All Elite Wrestling for a TV taping later on this year. Now, yesterday, news broke that AEW's planned taping for Collision in Columbus, Ohio's Nationwide Arena on December 7th was suddenly called off the schedule, with the arena announcing that the show had been cancelled. As it turns out, the show itself hadn't been so much cancelled as AEW had decided to move to a smaller, potentially more intriguing venue. In a press release revealed shortly after Nationwide Arena's announcement, AEW revealed that their Collision taping on December 7 is still on and will take place in Columbus still. The show will now emulate out of the Great Columbus Convention Center as part of the GalaxyCon Columbus convention taking place that weekend. Those who purchase tickets for Collision in Nationwide Arena will have their money refunded, while tickets for the new venue will go on sale Saturday via both AEW and GalaxyCon. GalaxyCon Columbus was already set to have a bit of wrestling presence before reaching this agreement with AEW. Among the wrestling legends scheduled to appear at the convention that weekend were WWE Hall of Famers Mick Foley, Arn Anderson, Trish Stratus, and Lita, as well as wrestling legends Lex Luger and the Steiners. Two notable AEW names were also set for the convention, including LFI manager Jake the Snake Roberts and Sting, who remains associated with the promotion even following his retirement match this past March. AEW Collision at GalaxyCon Columbus marks the second unique location AEW has had for their Saturday show this year, following their residency in Arlington, Texas's Esports Arena in July and August. It may also be the first of two smaller venues that the promotion runs in December, as reports suggest that Collision will be held at the Hammerstein Ballroom later that month, a day after the Ring of Honor Final Battle pay-per-view is expected to take place in the same said venue. And finally, a bit of an update when it comes to a botch, a gaffe, if you will, by former AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland this week on AEW Dynamite. Former AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland made a bit of a gaffe during Dynamite this week's during the broadcast on TBS, claiming to be in Stamford, Connecticut, but they're actually 20 miles away in Bridgeport. Speaking on Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez offered an explanation for Strickland's mistake. He said, quote, "I will say this to defend Swerve Strickland. The hotel that the wrestlers were booked to stay in was in Stamford," Alvarez said. It wasn't like he thought he was in WWE. Alvarez and co-host Dave Meltzer still agreed that it was a poor mistake for Strickland to make, especially because he's a babyface. The error came after Strickland defeated Leo Rush in a singles bout, with the former world champion calling out Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Syndicate after the victory. The crowd began chanting Bridgeport support at Strickland following his mistake, but the rest have powered through the promo. The segment then ended with Strickland and Prince Nana getting laid out. That shouldn't have come as a surprise considering the Hurt Syndicate's numbers advantage, and it was one of the things that several people were talking about after Dynamite this week. Earlier this month, coming off a victory against Shelton Benjamin, Strickland challenged Lashley to a match at AEW Full Gear. The pay-per-view is set to take place on November 23rd from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. In addition to Strickland versus Lashley, 7 other matches have been announced for the main card so far, including Jon Moxley defending the AEW World Championship in the main event against Orange Cassidy. But there you go, guys. Latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.